I think that it's something that we all need to be very mindful of. We all need to be aware of that when you run, you aren't solving a problem, you're just running. That's all there is to it. You're just running and you're trying to avoid it. But the thing is, you can't avoid a thing forever. And the thing is, the more you avoid a thing, the more it gets in the way of your well-being, of your peace, of your happiness, and just of your overall growth. Usually when you are using a short-term fix, like for example, you're trying to put something back together and you aren't using the correct glue for it or the correct tape for it, it's going to come apart again tomorrow. And that's exactly what happens when you are escaping. You're going to come apart again tomorrow, or you are going to need to do that thing again and again and again and again, because it's short term. It's not fixing anything, it's not covering anything, it's not protecting anything, it's not dealing with anything. It's just there for a short period of time. You need positive reinforcement from others. Unfortunately, you might have some negative voices surrounding you. There might be people in your life that aren't good for you, and you need to remove them. These are people that would be leading you in the wrong direction, and they may encourage you to run because that's what they do and that's all they know as well. To stay and fight, you need to remove those negative influences. Do not surround yourself with more avoidant people and more people who run away from their problems when this is something you are trying to get out of. Hi community, welcome to this week's episode of A Cupful. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. I hope you're taking good care of yourself, nourishing your heart and mind, resting your body and soul, just giving yourself a chance to breathe even in the midst of life's everyday challenges and busyness. I really just want to know where 2023 is running off to, because this is giving a sprint and not marathon, and I'm really questioning what's going on. I also feel like whenever we get to July, post-pandemic anyways, whenever we have gotten to July since 2021 pretty much, the year kind of just flies by. I don't know. It really moves much quicker. I feel like we're going to all breathe in and then out again, and then it's going to be the 1st of September, but I'm not complaining because there is definitely a bright side to it. That means much warmer weather here in South Africa. Thank goodness. I love it when I'm seeing the trees get the green leaves again and the flowers bloom, and there's just the scent in the air and the skies are getting clearer. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, I can handle one more month of this, August, but spring baby, I am waiting on you. And I'm also really excited because my birthday is also fast approaching, which is pleasing me and my homegirls. There is just so much to look forward to, and I'm so grateful. There's other work-related stuff I'm doing. I recorded such an exciting podcast episode, and when it comes out, I'm definitely going to be reposting it on my personal page, on the A Couple page. It is one of the best things to happen to me in 2023. It is also 100% one of my biggest highlights of the year, and I am so grateful for having gotten the opportunity to do that. So yes, I'm feeling very optimistic, very positive about the remainder of 2023. My mind is in a good place. I feel fresh, I feel revitalized. I feel like I am going to be so open to so many wonderful things happening. Again, it is exciting me that it is my birthday soon. I'm very fast, very fast approaching the end of my 30s. It's happening did I just say the end of my 30s? Girl, I am not going into my 40s. Absolutely not. I meant to say the end of my 20s. I meant to say the end of my 20s. I am not in that much of a hurry to get older and wiser. Absolutely not. I am, as much as facing challenges and have been facing challenges in my 20s, I am enjoying being young, I'm enjoying learning, I'm enjoying growing, and I'm enjoying just getting to know myself better and understanding myself better. So yes, there's so much to look forward to, and I am so grateful. I'm 100% also making it more and more of a habit every day to just express gratitude, whether it is in prayer, whether I'm just saying it. Like, I'm so grateful that I have a warm bed to sleep in, that I have food to eat, that I have love that surrounds me. Whether it's going to my loved ones and telling them that I'm grateful for you, whatever it is, I'm really embracing gratitude and expressing it and just being grateful. So yes, absolutely excited, 100% exciting. This is a bit of a much longer intro, sorry. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great, and I thought, why not share it? Why not share it with the best community to ever be? Another thing I am truly grateful for is that in this week's episode, I have given myself the mental and emotional space to talk about why running away just isn't a sustainable approach to living. So, a lot of things have inspired this week's episode, this week's topic. It's just how I've been feeling lately. It's my change in mindset and perspective. It's reflecting and just seeing how far I've come and wanting to share that. And it's also just some of the things I've been seeing on social media, especially from pages that I follow on Instagram, that focus on wellness, psychologists that have pages on the platform, and how I've been seeing the conversation about really approaching the things that you are going through and not wanting to run away from them and not wanting to avoid them. So there are a whole lot of things that have influenced and inspired this week's episode, and I really want us to get into it and talk about it. Let's have this conversation. Let's talk about this. Hopefully this episode will be helpful to someone who really is finding themselves in a place where they are either running and they are realizing that it is futile, or they are tired of running and they are tired of the heaviness and the pain that it is causing them. I think this is also a great episode if you are perhaps looking at exploring how to deal with your issues and how to face the problems that you have in a sustainable and healthy way, because we all have problems, we all have struggles, we all have difficulties, we are all going to experience difficulties at many points in our lives. So, you can walk away from people and places and things that no longer serve you or align with your needs, values, and ethics. I'm a big advocate for that. I think it's important to do that when you have seen or you are seeing that this is not working, and you are seeing that the best way to preserve yourself and even the good memories of that relationship is to walk away. I absolutely 100% agree with that. However, running is hiding. So you're not walking away, you're running. It is not confronting, it is not questioning, it is not expressing yourself in any way, whether it's to yourself or it's to a therapist or it's to the person or people that have hurt you. It is just looking for a way to avoid and numb. And in the long run, it just isn't feasible, especially if you are somebody that is really trying your utmost best to create a different life for yourself, to create a better life for yourself, and to really rework, redefine some of your values, your morals, your ethics, to unlearn some of the very unhealthy and toxic ways that you learned in your living environment as a child, right? So it isn't feasible. It isn't a sustainable approach. And I think that it's something that we all need to be very mindful of. We all need to be aware of that when you run, you aren't solving a problem. You're just running. That's all there is to it. You're just running and you're trying to avoid it. But the thing is, you can't avoid a thing forever. And the thing is, the more you avoid a thing, the more it gets in the way of your well-being, of your peace, of your happiness, and just of your overall growth. When I was putting this episode together, I was thinking about how much I have grown emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and I'm so grateful. Like I said, it's my birthday in the coming months, and I can positively say I am proud of the hard work that I have put in and how I continue to do so, to really acknowledge and face my issues. Now, here's another thing that I'm learning and that I'm realizing that I didn't see before. And when I say before, I mean, when I really started getting into my holistic wellness, trying to take better care of myself as a whole and learning certain things that I was taught, how I was conditioned. I'm realizing that this is an ongoing thing. It doesn't end when I have finished a self-help book, or when I finish listening to one of my favorite wellness podcasts, or when I'm done reading an article or a specific number of articles. This is an ongoing thing because we are faced with different challenges in different seasons of our lives. And since adopting that perspective and understanding that it's a journey, it's not a destination, I am able to really work through things far much better, and I have a lot more grace on myself. And when I do find myself not having grace on myself, I am able to realize it and then take a step back and say, you know what, let me just move away from this a little bit. I will come back to it when I have the capacity to properly deal with it. So I'm realizing that this is continuous, as I just said, as I was saying, that I continue to work on things because I will have different experiences in different seasons of my life, and I will need to work through them. I cannot ignore them. And the best thing about being intentional about working on yourself and really facing your issues is that you are going to want to keep doing it, right? You are also going to understand that it's not a once-off thing. You're going to understand that as a part of life, to really survive and actually thrive, the work continues, it doesn't stop. So yeah, I'm really in a place where I understand that this is ongoing. This is not going to stop tomorrow. It won't stop in 10 years. It will look a lot more different in 10 years, but I'm still going to have to be intentional about myself. The person who must be most intentional about you is you. 100%. So yeah, I have been in a position where I've been consumed by the darkness of childhood traumas and even adulthood ones, consumed by how broken my heart was as a result of the things that have happened to me. And I used to run. That was always easier, even though it wasn't really. Running in a moment is, and the thing is, it's the quickest solution. I'm not going to call it the easiest one, but it's the quickest one. I always used to find that when I would run, as much as it would be easier, not really easy, the repercussions of it would be very hard, and I would have many pieces of glass to pick up. And had I been in a position where I would have faced my issues at the time, then I probably wouldn't have been picking up so many pieces and having glass go through my hands and then having to clean up the blood and disinfect a wound or clean out a wound so that it doesn't get infected. You know what I mean? So I'm obviously just using an analogy, but yeah, there was a serious domino effect that I was seeing. And when I look back now, that I see that even when I was running and thinking that I'm just not focusing on the issue, I'd have even more problems, more repercussions that would come from me running away. And I felt like as long as I could distract myself and avoid confronting my issues, that I'd feel better. But the thing is, the discomfort, the emptiness, the pain, they were all still there. Even after the partying and drinking, even after overcompensating in friendships and romantic relationships, even after pouring into others when I did not have the capacity to, my issues were still very much there. I still felt abandoned, alone, deeply insecure, unwanted, fearful, and broken. So broken. And when I started getting older, it became apparent that I did not have to operate from that darkness anymore. That I deserve to live a life where I'm not just surviving, as long as I can forget about it for a little bit, that started becoming unsustainable for me. I got tired of feeling a temporary relief, and I'm not going to say it was one specific moment, but it was just looking at things in retrospect. The older I got, the more I experienced different things and different people. Think your patterns, your ways of being, your ways of thinking, they show up. And when you can see that they aren't good for you, then you are going to be able to understand that there's some work that you need to do. When you are willing to see that they aren't good for you and you aren't just ignoring and avoiding it. And I think the biggest thing for me was the experiences that I was having with other people. And then also experiencing the same negative things. I started to say to myself, something is wrong here. Something is very wrong, and I need to understand what's going on. I mean, and I could really talk forever and ever about my journey of starting to realize that I had to make some changes. And so I just I wanted to share my own experiences before really going into the episode and talking about what the negative impact of running away is, and how you can just give yourself a chance and stop and sit down and think and give yourself an opportunity to think. So yeah, the reality is that when we face difficulties, our natural instincts kick in, and instinctually you would want to protect yourself, right? We all have the fight or flight instinct built into us. We're human beings. Along with fear, when a problem arises, you will also feel stress and a little bit of anxiety, or a lot of anxiety. Moreover, feelings of hopelessness, despair, or confusion may lurk in the back of your brain too. And when you run away from digging deep and dealing with the things that have affected you, it is easier to harbor bitterness and anger, which is one reason why running isn't sustainable. I used to be such an angry person. I used to hold in a lot of things and avoid a lot of things with the hope that they would go away. And my anger would build, and then I would explode, and it would often be an explosion that was unnecessary, that could have been avoided. I would be exploding, impacting the wrong people that were not supposed to be impacted or affected by that. So yeah, it's the effects of running away. They are so dire. They're so dire. You also make space to become more avoidant. The less you deal with things that are affecting you, the less you see a reason to actually deal with them. Because, yeah, so what? You are definitely not giving yourself a chance to actually process the things that are happening in your life. Running means you aren't giving yourself an opportunity to cultivate a healthy relationship with yourself and with others, because when there's a problem, then you're going to want to run away from it and not deal with it and not face it. And again, this isn't a sustainable approach, especially if you are someone that has the intention to live a long and full life. How are you going to live a long and full and fulfilling life when you are not able to face the things that you are dealing with, and face them even though it's painful and it's hard, and face them even though you don't know what you're doing? Because a lot of the times we really don't know what we're doing, but the minute you acknowledge or recognize that this is this and this is how it's making me feel, you have already put one foot in the door. And that's something that you should be proud of, especially if you're someone that was never taught or was never shown what properly dealing with issues looks like, what approaching an issue with a sound mind, with good intentions, with the intention to learn from it and grow from it, right? And you have to teach yourself all of these things. I know exactly how it feels. I promise I understand, because I have been in a position where I've had to start from point A, teaching myself and trying to figure it out and choosing to figure it out. Just figure it out. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy, because it isn't. Figuring things out with no tools and no resources, and when I say tools and resources, I'm talking about just understanding what you're doing, just having the emotional capacity and capabilities. Girl, listen, I have been there. But when you stop running and you stop trying so hard to not confront your issues, you realize that even though it's painful and it's hard and it's uncomfortable, there is so much freedom in it. There is a lot of freedom in it. Getting into the consequences that have been associated with avoidance or running away from your problems. The first one is that the problem still exists. You don't grow or become a better you. Your anxiety, stress, and fears, they increase, right? It creates even more problems, such as physical health issues, because running away from your problems can make you physically ill. It can make you physically ill. And it isolates yourself from others. There is a study that has found that running away from your problems, avoidance, has been linked, according to the study, according to the scientists, it has been linked to cancer. People that are not dealing with their issues, they are more prone to develop cancer. Right? And understandable, because you are in a constant flight mode. You're constantly in flight. Your body is feeling this. Your nervous system is feeling this. You're always stressed. You're always anxious. You're always afraid. When it's time to deal with something, your body immediately almost goes into shock. Or maybe not necessarily shock, but physically you are affected. Stress is horrible for the body. It's horrible for the mind. And I can only imagine what years and years of running away ends up doing to you. Years of it, when you just run and your only solution to a problem is to just run. The long-term effects of it can only be dire. There is always a way, though. There's always a way. And I like to, in as many of the episodes as I possibly can, provide practical ways to move forward and practical ways to help us get out of certain mindsets and certain places that aren't good for us, right? Working through your problems can be such a freeing experience, as I said, and has so many important benefits to it. So what are they? You build your self-confidence, you decrease your stress and anxiety, you utilize better coping mechanisms, you feel better physically and mentally, and you find a solution to your problem. And I love that I can speak on this as well. I have found that I've been able to build my self-confidence. It's still a work in progress, but it's happening and I'm intentional about it. I do find that I have less stress and I'm less anxious, right? I still experience stress, because life has stressful moments, but I'm not in a constant state of stress as I used to be. I have better coping mechanisms, 100%. I used to drink to cope. I used to drink alcohol to cope. I used to party to cope. I used to be the person that would really, really eat to cope. I was an emotional eater. I have been in a position where to cope, a coping mechanism for me was 100% thinking that I could fix other people, and that would also be a distraction from my own problems. Instead of doing the work inside of me, I would want to do the work with other people, helping other people work through things when I hadn't even touched the surface of my own issues. So yeah, I found that I have better coping mechanisms. I would much rather be physically active, exercise, stretch, take a walk, than I would do any of the things that I previously mentioned. I would much rather sit and enjoy my own time and watch a movie or watch a series. I absolutely love K-dramas. I'd much rather do that than go and immerse myself in something that is probably only going to make me feel worse, right? I do feel better physically and mentally, and I do find that I just give myself space and I give myself time to find solutions to my problems. And sometimes there isn't a solution to a problem, like something that is beyond your control, you know? For example, if you are looking for a job and you can't find one, or if you are in a position where you have a parent who is problematic, or a sibling who's problematic, or a partner or a friend who's problematic, and you have spoken to them about it and you have expressed that to them and there are no changes, that is beyond your control, right? I have an episode about the fact that you can't change a person and you shouldn't want to. Those are things that are beyond your control. People should want to change for themselves because if they see the problem. People should not want to change because of you see the problem. People should not want to change, or you shouldn't want to force people to change, right? So those are things that are beyond your control, and the only solution to that problem would be to walk away from people like that. Limit the access that they have in your life. When it comes to family, it's a different situation, so I'm going to say limit the access that those people have to your life. But if it's people that you can choose, like a partner and a friend, and they are simply not respecting you, they're not trying, they aren't putting in the work, they are just not doing anything at all, then the solution to that kind of problem would be to walk away. And as I said, walking away is valid. You can walk away from people, but we don't ghost, you know? You don't run away. You create boundaries. You speak your mind. You speak your piece without swearing at anyone. You learn to express yourself and to control yourself, even in doing that. So, how do you realistically and practically work through your problems without avoiding them? Let's get into that. The first thing is to stop and think about the situation instead of reacting. Very difficult, very hard, and possibly overreacting. Very difficult, very hard. I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not going to make anything sound like it's easy, especially again, if this is not something that you were taught and you have to teach yourself as an adult. Stopping and thinking about situations instead of reacting, especially if you grew up in a household or were raised by caregivers who were very reactive when they were speaking to you, right? You know what you have seen, and so that is what you know to do. And now having to unlearn this will be probably one of the hardest things to do, right? So yeah, not going to be easy, but it is a very practical approach, a very feasible way to go about it. Thinking about what's going on, like really sitting down and thinking, stepping outside of the room, outside of the space that you're in, and just thinking. And while you're thinking, figuring out, number one, the reason you're in the situation you're in, number two, the fact about what's currently happening, number three, the sequence of events that led you to your current situation, and number four, how you feel about the situation. Now I'm going to say it again, this is no easy thing to do when this is not what you have known all your life, but it is doable, it is possible. You just have to give yourself a little bit of time and some space and practice, because it's a new thing, but it is a way to give yourself an opportunity to also calm down and not be reactive and not be overreactive, right? And I'm still learning how to do this as well. Stopping and thinking. It's not something I'm completely settled into yet, but I do find that when I give myself a chance to use this approach, it actually does work. And while you're reflecting, two things happen. You slow down your thought processes, which is true, and you slow down your physical reaction. So you give yourself a chance to relax, and you can think about this very, very, very clearly. This allows you to really just look at a different perspective of the situation. Also, it helps to lower the amount of stress you feel, which decreases the flight or fight or flight response, then you're more physically and mentally prepared to deal with the problem. So for example, I did not particularly know how to function in situations where I was required to stop and think about it, which is a lot of the situations in our lives. I would always think that if something doesn't go in a particular way, like if someone is not going to listen to me immediately, or someone is not going to apologize immediately, or if I don't talk to a person immediately, then we won't be able to solve the problem. But sometimes things don't need to happen immediately. A lot of the times they don't. We need to stop and think, to avoid saying things we don't mean, to avoid making rash decisions. When emotions are high, you gotta stop and think. So put that aside and think about what the situation actually is and how you can work through it in a calm manner, in a manner that is sustainable and feasible. The second thing is to recognize that escape is a short-term fix. Escaping a problem may look like a solution, but the problem will catch up to you. Also, avoidance may make the problem bigger. Very, 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 very true. As I said before, I used to want to just avoid the situations, the challenges that I was faced with, the problems that I was experiencing, and avoiding them or ignoring them. I would then use escape as my fix, but it was short term, and there would just be more problems that would come from the short term fix. Usually when you are using a short term fix, like for example, you're trying to put something back together and you aren't using the correct glue for it or the correct tape for it, it's going to come apart again tomorrow. And that's exactly what happens when you are escaping. You're going to come apart again tomorrow, or you are going to need to do that thing again and again and again and again, because it's short term. It's not fixing anything, it's not covering anything, it's not protecting anything, it's not dealing with anything. It's just there for a short period of time, right? And it will catch up to you. It's going to catch up to you, and it's going to make the problem bigger. In reality, escaping is not a solution. In fact, it's avoiding a solution. Just more avoidance on top of more avoidance. And in order to stop running away from your problems, you really need to recognize your avoidance behavior. I think there's a really important thing to mention, that you need to see how you are avoiding things. What do you use to avoid things? Avoidance behaviors are things you do to escape from your problem. Things like using alcohol or drugs. As I said, I used to consume quite a significant amount of alcohol. I was not an alcoholic, I was not dependent on it, but it was a nice way for me to numb my pain. And for me, the thing was that the alcohol that I had consumed the day before was not going to stay in my system, so then I'd have to consume alcohol some more. And now I don't have any self-control anymore, and I'm just drinking so that I don't think about any of my problems. So that's not a feasible solution at all. Another one is overindulging in hobbies like TV watching, gaming, or social media use. The social media use one, I've also found myself in the traps of that one, even oversharing on social media as do I want to call it a coping mechanism? Not a coping mechanism, just as an escape, excessive sleeping, stress eating. Those are other avoidance behaviors. And I really actually want to do an episode on escapism, because escapism isn't always bad. Sometimes we need a little bit of an escape, but escapism can get out of control and it can become incredibly toxic and negative. So you need to be careful as a person, and in the desire to want to do better and be better, acknowledge and see what your avoidance behaviors are so that you can work through them. Number 3 is embrace the negative. Negative feelings are going to happen. It's a guarantee. It's a part of life. Avoiding negative feelings only prolongs the inevitable. You know what? I don't know. I just want to say louder. Avoiding negative feelings at the end of the day is only going to make things worse. You are only going to feel worse. You are only going to have more pieces to pick up. You are only going to become more isolated with yourself, with other people, and you are only going to hate your life more. So just immerse yourself in the negative feelings. Again, not an easy thing to do when you were never taught that this is normal, that it's okay. And now you have to teach yourself all of these things. And it's hard. That's true. But we've got to try. We've got to try, especially if we're trying to be better people for ourselves and the people that we love. And if you want to have a family in the future, for your kids and your partner, you know? Living beings grow, we grow, and growth hurts, it's painful, but you have a choice to either grow from your experiences or allow them to set you back. By recognizing negative feelings as they happen and processing them, you really just grow from the experience, and as a result, you become a better version of yourself. I say this so many times, all the time, on all the episodes in this podcast, but it's so true. You are going to become a better version of yourself when you're intentional about it, when you work on it, when you want it. You really will have created a positive change in your life. Number 4 is find a solution. Before you can act, you need an action plan. You need to do some research into what you actually need to do to fix your problem and do it, work on it, be intentional. It's going to be sore, it's going to be uncomfortable. None of it is ever easy, but you have to put one foot in front of the other and try. Don't try to invent the wheel. Find out how others face the same situation and learn from them. Then make a plan that works for you based off of what you've learned. I think with this find a solution, I just really wanted to talk about shame and how shame can really hinder your progress as a person. I used to find that shame made me not want to share my experiences with other people because I was afraid of what they were going to say about me. And I guess maybe that also was because I was surrounded by the wrong people. So yeah, it is true that you need to find or need to have good people that are really supportive and that will be honest with you and that won't be afraid to tell you and really go into what their experiences have looked like. But another thing that we really have to do in finding a solution is release the shame. It is such a thick, blinding cover that doesn't let you truly move forward. It stands in the way. So in order for you to open up to other people, you need to release the shame. You need to release any embarrassment you might feel. You need to really allow yourself to see things from the perspective of, okay, this has happened. It does not define me. It's not who I am. And I want to move on with my life, or I want to move forward with my life, and I'm going to try. Number 5 is use support. So this is why I absolutely love community, and I just mentioned previously that you need to invite good people into your life. Want to receive support from good people who are not trying to use anything against you, right? And sometimes it won't be a people or a person, it will be a therapist or it will be a support group, right? But solving a problem alone only reinforces the temptation to run because there's no one around you. You don't feel supported, you don't feel loved, there's no affirmation, there's no love. You're just carrying everything alone. So obviously you are going to want to run. You feel suffocated, right? But you don't have to feel like it's you alone against the world. You really don't. Others are available to help you if you know where to look. And not just only if you know where to look, you've got to open your heart. Opening our hearts is so important. And this is another thing. It's not an easy thing to do when you haven't particularly had a lot of support in your life, when you do not know the first thing about opening yourself up to other people, when you are closed off emotionally. And it is not your fault, right? It isn't your fault that this is how you were raised, but you do now have a responsibility to work on yourself and to work on things and to really lean into the support system that you have. So open your heart. Perhaps there are people around you that are good for you and that are trying to give you support and give you love. And maybe you're just used to doing things on your own or carrying things on your own, and you've been made to feel alone your entire life, which again is not your fault. But look at it from this perspective. You aren't alone. You don't have to be alone. There are people that want to love you. There are people that want to guide you. And you need to open yourself up to that. And it really is tempting to stay quiet about your problems. Feelings of guilt or shame will make you not want to reach out for help. As I mentioned, you need to let go of the shame. You need to let go of the embarrassment and let go of the guilt and lean into support. So it's important to remember that problems are universal. Everyone struggles at some point in life, and you are not alone. If you feel like you can't trust someone close to you, there are people online willing to listen. Online therapy, there are online support groups, and it's not an easy thing to do. Again, I just want to emphasize on this because I hear sometimes perspectives on really moving forward and trying to get your life together. They are not very practical, right? And they aren't realistic. The truth is that a lot of people do not know what being in community, healthy, good, loving community, being in healthy, good relationships looks like. They were never exposed to it. They were never taught of it. The environments that they were in were a lot of them being there for other people, exposing themselves to unhealthy situations so that other people could love them, just needing to work and fight to be loved, right? And so it's not an easy thing to do, and I can recognize that, and I can understand that it's really not an easy thing to do, but there is support available, there is love available. Open your heart, open your mind, give yourself a bit of a chance to do that, and find someone that you can trust. Talk to someone who has been through what you're going through. Maybe they have some sound advice to give you, or they can just listen and provide encouragement, Lean on your personal cheering section and surround yourself with positive people as well, with people that are willing to just speak goodness into your life, people that are willing to pray for you, that are willing to speak goodness of you. Number 6 is remove negative influences. Very, very important one. To implement a solution, you will need to control who you allow to speak into your life, because the tongue is very powerful. As I said, you need positive reinforcement from others. Unfortunately, you might have some negative voices surrounding you. There might be people in your life that aren't good for you, and you need to remove them. These are people that would be leading you in the wrong direction, and they may encourage you to run because that's what they do and that's all they know as well. To stay and fight, you need to remove those negative influences. Do not surround yourself with more avoidant people and more people who run away from their problems when this is something you are trying to get out of. If someone is saying things that negatively influence you, they aren't really trying to show up for you. They aren't really trying to be your friend or your support system, and you need to move away from that. The last one, which is number 7, is to stick to the plan. Don't run away. Don't give up. It's going to be tempting to do it because it's not easy to do all of this work. Just stick to the plan and increase your efforts and your support from others. And I'm not going to say it's going to be fine immediately or 2 years in or 5 years in, but you find better ways to navigate things. You find more sustainable ways to look at things. You become more intentional, and you open your heart and mind more. Your mindset also changes, because you're more intentional and you are more present with yourself as well. And I think that as much as it's not an easy thing to do, it's a very commendable thing to do. It says a lot about you and just how much you're willing to fight for yourself. More than anything, how much you're willing to fight for yourself. And I think it's even better when you have other people around you, another person around you that's willing to fight for you, that's willing to show up for you. So yes, You deserve good things. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be fulfilled. Just because of you were not raised in a certain environment, and just because of you have not always known love or seen love or known support and felt supported, it doesn't mean that that's not something that you can receive now as an adult. And I wish each and every person who is listening that the best people come into their lives and that they experience love, and that if anything, that the kind of love you experience, the kind of support that you experience, the kind of community that you get to live in, that it really holds you up, and it really time and time again shows you that you're not alone, that you don't have to go through things alone, and that it's very possible to change your life, to change your perspective, to change your mindset, and to keep going and to keep doing the work. This is where we are ending this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. This episode was a much longer one, so I'm so grateful that you decided to listen all the way until the end. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please don't forget that you can stream or listen to A Cupful on all listening platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, everywhere. It really is available everywhere. Please don't forget to share it with a friend and tell them to share it with another friend. Just please, please, please spread the word. You can also follow A Cupful on Instagram at @a_cupful. And if you have any thoughts to share, you are more than welcome to via DM, or you can comment in the comment section of the post for the week where I announce the new episode. So yes, please, please, please share, interact, let me know what you think. And if you find yourself coming back every other week, or you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to give it a 5-star rating. Have a beautiful remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to, take good care of your body and your mind. Be kind to yourself and others every single chance that you get. And most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.